Hey everyone, it's Chase and Dave here shortly from the Cruiser Cult, and today we're going to talk with Electric GT, talk about the electrification, which is going to be a very important topic we're all going to have to face potentially at some point here. Hey Dave.
What's going on? I see you're bundled up as much as I am.
Got you, man. Uninsulated garage.
Eric's gonna be in like flip flops and like a tank top because I think he's in Orange County.
Brutal. Not fair. Let's see. All right. I invited him. We can get him on here. Ah, nice hoodie.
Thanks, man.
All right. If Eric can see the invite.
I realized as we kind of lined up for this type of interview that I know very little about electrical vehicles. I said, as we lined up this interview, I realized through some research that I know very little about electric vehicles.
Yeah, I think we all don't know enough. It'll be good to talk to someone who actually knows what they're doing about this. So, all right, hold on. Looks like we're having a little bit of technical difficulties getting Eric here. Might have to pause and restart. Let's see. I don't know. Sorry, folks. You might have to stop and restart this. We'll see here. Thanks, Brian. I did finally figure out how to mirror the camera so everyone can read. If I hold something up, you can read it. Hey!
This is. I was sitting there watching you guys, and I can't figure out how to get on because my flip flop came untied.
Oh,
yeah. See, it's untied.
Thanks, Brian. I did finally figure out how to mirror the camera so everyone can read.
Yeah, I was.
Something up. You can read it. Hey!
This is.
I was sitting there
watching you guys.
Get some funny audio feedback going.
Hang on a second. How's that? Is that better? All right. Sorry, I tried my computer and I must be inept or something. So we'll try it from here now. You guys look like, God dang, it looks cold in there. Is that Dave? Are you?
Not
you
as
guys hear
cold
me?
as some people are used to. I got flack for bundling up when it was 30 degrees. So.
It's pretty cool in Seattle. It hailed today, and there's some hail sticking around on the grass and stuff. So it's chilly.
Yeah, no, I'm not a stranger to the Seattle area. You know, I've been known to be a greener back in my college days down in Olympia. So, you know, I'm not scared of a little, cold weather now and then.
Nice.
I mean, look at that.
Hello, you guys are Don't you do a little introduction here?
Rod's back there. I'm trying to look back there, but he's got it darked out on purpose. I know that. He's trying to keep us focused here.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining us. Again, this is Chase and Dave here from the Cruiser Cult, and today we're talking with Eric from Electric GTE to talk about the electrification of classic vehicles and more specifically Land Cruisers, which is going to be an increasingly important issue we might all have to face here in the future due to regulations and environmental impacts. So we're really excited. Thank you, Eric, for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down and talk with Dave and I about your work and what we can look forward to in the Land Cruiser community.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having me on. I'm happy to share and answer some questions, tell you some cool things that we're getting into, all kinds of stuff. It's certainly a neat field to be involved in, and obviously a pretty legendary line of cars as well, which is neat, or trucks, we should say. And I know you're not supposed to use the word Jeep.
Good call.
Yeah, no, guys, fire away. Let's get into it. Let's talk Land Cruiser stuff.
Yeah. So one question we usually start out with someone is kind of how get a backstory about how they got into Land Cruisers, but that might not be applicable to you. So how did you first get into maybe, the classic car world? Or
Well, no, we can start with the first question. I had an FJ, a 96 80 series, non-locked, with some 35s on it, and it was my Baja romper. And I hate to tell you, over a couple tiers, I sold it about 6 months, not even 6 months ago, about 4 months ago, in 18 hours for an absurd price, like triple what I bought it for. I mean, I put some money into it, I think I blew the block once and did the head a couple times and had all sorts of kind of exciting stuff, but it was starting to run me about 75 cents a mile to drive that thing around Southern California. And it's not the car for Baja, perfect. And, my Johnson in Africa would be ideal for, a car like that. There's a certain environment where they would be just incredible. And Southern California, freeway commuting from San Diego to LA to work is, I don't think, anyone's dream job, but, doing what we're doing and being that much time on the road, I had to go buy some electric car that can flog like a donkey. So I got a floggable car. It was kind of like, getting neutered to drive a Chevy Bolt or something, but until we can get something that's really cool under my ass and drive every day back and forth, it's a perfect freeway car. It would be like a Tesla of sorts. So the 80 was a great car. I loved it. But even, going back further to, what were the classic cars that motivate you, when you're a kid? Now, I might be dating myself, so I hope I'm throwing myself under the bus, but there was a couple cars that were like, if you always had, you had a couple cars you could name as a kid that you liked, right?
Oh, yeah.
What were they?
For sure.
Oh, I think my favorite was probably the Porsche 959.
Okay. All right, well, it was a Ferrari
I was
308
into Shelby Cobras.
In a Cobra, yeah. I mean, how could you not like that? But like the 308, I'm not going to say this, but the Magnum PI, that was really cool at the time in the 70s. And an FJ40, obviously popular in the 70s, most 70s kind of cars. So I don't know. I always liked them, and I don't think that I was ever really a car guy, but I enjoyed those. And I have had since the opportunity to own or drive or spend time with both of those vehicles. So I had a 308 was my first vehicle that I bought from the junkyard. It had a fuel fire. It was at Copart in San Diego. And we were joking around and we're like, hey, that would be a great electric car. It's all burned up and toasted. It's destined for bottle caps and washing machine parts. Let's see how much we can buy it for them. 10 grand later, I get this heaping, smoking, smoldery, stinky car delivered at a shop where we're going to work on it. And I'm like, that is absolutely disgusting. But, dissecting it, pulling it apart like a biology experiment and going through it was really neat, to hand disassemble a handmade car from Italy is kind of a fun experience. And, it's a controversial experiment. And when we did it, all the parts went back to other Ferraris all over the world. So it was ultimately the biggest donor, right? I mean, the block is in Vancouver, Canada. The heads went to Costa Rica. The airbox is in Netherlands. The carbs are rebuilt in Germany. I couldn't even tell you that car has been scattered on the planet.
Wow.
But, it was neat. It turned out to end up being the world's first electrified Ferrari. And that's kind of how it all started. It's just a hobby for me, and doing something. And I had some friends who were in the business, and it was neat to see, how fast the electric is. Its performance, it's hot rodding, and it's reliable. And I had a second one of those Ferraris I got. I was going to maybe fix it up, and I'm like, yeah, the electric thing is kind of a fad, blah, blah, blah. And I got the other one. I didn't ever touch the other one. I tried even looking at fixing it, and I looked at my wallet, and I'm like, no way. And I just put it back on Bring a Trailer, and I sent it straight to Bulgaria to the first buyer. And everything was gone. So, I got, finished the other one. Obviously not inexpensive to do electric, but we got it, running, and have done renditions of it over. It's out in the wild. It's on its fourth owner now, but that thing is fast. It was like 179 foot-pounds of torque in the original car. Now it's like 330. So it's kind of like double, if you will, but it's more than enough power, right? I mean, it feels, yeah, you could put a Tesla drive unit in and just, sign your life insurance policy. But that car with an upside down reverse G50 transaxle from a Porsche rips, right? You'll never use first gear, but second gear, it's like the tires are spinning. Third gear is fast. Fourth gear, it transfers that torque when you're going 120. And you hit the Stig was driving that on Top Gear America, racing, you know, on the track at Speed Vegas. And he never even got out of fourth gear, and he had 165 miles an hour on the GPS speedometer locked on a half-mile straightaway uphill. I'm like, holy, that thing flies. So, I mean, the car was never supposed to go more than 156, and here it was at fourth gear, and he never got to fifth on a short straightaway, and it's probably a 180 car or 185 or something. I mean, it's crazy, and it, you know, the tube frame construction that clearly feels, you know, made for that power, but not the case. I mean, it was so slow otherwise. So if you were a deaf person, you would see the two cars driving against each other and prefer the electric. But actually listening to the real car was kind of a neat experience. I mean, it sounds great, but you have to close your eyes because it was painfully slow to look at.
That's funny.
All right, sorry, I go on. So yeah, so that's how I ended up. I got into that, and then, you know, it wasn't the way I turned into business. I think that, you know, Sergio Marchionne had gone out and driven a Tesla and did a press release that Ferrari over his dead body would drive, you know, would ever have an electric Ferrari. And I'm like, that's so funny. So the next day we just put a $400 press release out on PR Wire and said, you know, since Ferrari's not going to make an electric Ferrari Electric GT here in San Diego has made the world's first electrified Ferrari with 308. You know, I was sitting in the hot tub the next morning, the phone rings, and guy from CNN's automotive desk in the UK calls up and says, I'm so-and-so from the CNN. And I'm like, yeah, right. It's one of my friends pulling bullshit, and I hung up on him. And like, he has an English accent. Well, you're not kidding, are you? So one thing led to another, and then, you know, the press went on, and over a few years, the hobby turned into, you know, 4 or 5 people wanting conversions. And then I partnered with a gentleman named Brock Winberg, who is just really awesome on the technical side and with the engineering. And since, you know, 2018, when Volkswagen America hired us to do a Type 20 bus build for them, you know, Brock walked out after 90 days on a world times record of doing this conversion. He says, I'm never doing another conversion again. I'm like, well, shit, we're out of business. What do you want to do? And he's like, let's make crate motors. Let's make turnkey systems for the aftermarket that are plug and play that anyone can install, that has fab and fit skills. Our whole country's filled with people who know how to do all this aftermarket stuff, and that's not us, but let's do what we're good at. And I'm like, thought about it for a day. I'm like, okay, let's get in business. And here we are 5 years later, and I'm still wondering what I'm doing.
That's an awesome story.
It's neat, you know. And the second car we had after Volkswagen was the FJ40 that we took over to SEMA. And you guys saw that?
I've seen pictures, yeah.
Yeah, it's a neat build, but here, I'll let you guys ask questions. I don't want to dominate a conversation here for crying out loud. I got to keep my flip-flops loose.
Well, yeah, we were going to ask how Electric GT got started, but, you know, that your story perfectly segued into that. So yeah, what's your background? Like, how did you obviously took it upon yourself just to, you know, I'm going to electrify this Ferrari. What gave you that skill set to jump into that?
Well, you know, what's funny is okay, what skill sets do you think it takes? Well, any team or any organization requires the ability to put a team together, because unless you're just one guy, it's never the task of one person. So anything I've ever done, even going back to college days, requires a team to accomplish projects. So you bolster the things you're not good at. And I mean, clearly I've got hit by lightning since I don't have any hair left. And I'm probably not great with a lot of the technical aspects. So, you know, having a partner that's excellent in the technical aspects is critical. And so building a team around things that I'm not good at is kind of how we got there. So, you know, I was learning how to do things like plasma cutters and grinding wheels, and somehow I still have all my digits. No, they're real. And you know, working in shops with flip-flops, sparks flying and all that. I mean, we had a lot of fun. It was all about having fun. And everyone teaching each other new tasks and skills and trying things and using multiple people's inputs is kind of what it's all about. And there's a lot of people interested in it. So essentially it's kind of, you know, hobby weekends or hobby nights and lack of sleep doing things, and then people getting interested. And, you know, the Ferrari ended up going, you know, quite a bit of circuit. It got a lot of press. It came out in Wired magazine, and it went up, and it was, I mean, it went around the Horse Thief racetrack on its first day. It was like up all night trying to get it going just to get to that event. And we drove it around at Laguna Seca and smoked the batteries to the sweet smell of lithium coming out. So it was just a long time and having fun. You know, I ended up driving the car daily for like 10,000 miles over a couple of years. And other than it being super small and you can't really fit any groceries in it, it was super fun. All right, super fun car. But that we took it to Barrett Jackson to kind of end its story, and it moved on, and it went through another owner and another owner. Now it's on its fourth owner, and we just repowered it with new batteries. It never had a BMS in it, so the thing was basically a terrorist weapon on four wheels. We could catch on fire, do anything. I wouldn't park it in a high rise. But now we brought it up to modern standards and technology. It's got a battery management. It's got thermal management on the batteries. We rebuilt it. We basically redid everything except just the physical motors and the transmission. And the car is just a really, really neat car now. So that car's out in the wild. And it's funny, these things are out there and they keep driving and they keep working. We have a baggage tug at LAX driving around, and with the same system we put in a Fiat. And, these guys are pretty aggressive workers. They're hard on equipment. It wouldn't be different than equipment. And we haven't gotten a call in 4 years of that thing driving around at LAX. And the only call we ever did get, there's something happened on the 12-volt side that wasn't us. So, the reliability of the electric aspect and the usability is kind of cool. The fact that you could go out and take all the stuff that you couldn't drive very easily and make it super easy to drive. So this FJ40 showed up when we asked a client to send one to us because he wanted, he's like, what should I convert? And I'm like, really? Open book? He's like, yeah. And I'm all, send me an FJ40. That's my dream car. So we get this thing, a perfect Coronado beige. Once you disassemble the car and go through it, you find the whole history of the car, right? So when they did the chassis extension on the front where you kind of stretch it out 6 inches, get your suspension move forward, make it a little more stable. You see all these things you didn't know when you get into a car. So we pulled it all apart, put it back together, and we used the original drivetrain on it, the old 3-speed. We tried to do a 3 on the tree. That didn't work, so we ended up having to convert to the floor shifters. There's tons of guys that helped us out. I don't know, a bunch of guys in the cruiser community have been super, super helpful to us. I don't even know how to name them all, but the hardware guys, there's classic cruisers, there's just a number of guys that were instrumental in helping us out with stuff. But even Dakota Digital gave us a free cluster for it, and then it synced right in. And we ended up putting in Vintage Air came out to put the air conditioning system in there, and it's blows super cold. It's like basically an electric refrigerator on wheels. We learned a lot from doing the build, but when I drove the car when it first got there, it's like you're using all 4 hands to get the thing going. You're kind of feathering the throttle. You got the clutch in. You're pulling the choke out. You get it running. You got to keep it running. it was in okay shape, but then you're going 55 miles an hour. It's like you're riding a tractor. There's no question about it. It's that F2, was it the F2 in that, or the F1 that was in the 70? It was 800.
1F, yeah.
Jeez, it's heavy. It's a tractor. There's no question. There's I didn't realize the drivability in especially in an urban environment or a suburban environment is tough. Certainly neat. I always wanted to drive one. I'm like, man, that's hard. That's hard to just go get groceries. That'd be hard to get to 7-Eleven and back.
It takes a certain type of person to just, it's a lifestyle, right? It's a tractor.
It really is. I'm surprised there wasn't a PTO on it when it showed up. But the neat thing is, we pulled the motor out and we cycled that to someone. Yeah, that's. Yeah, we have an intermission right here. Yes, we have a black Labrador scratching at his radar dish right now. So pulling it apart and kind of assessing where to put batteries, how to power it, that's really the fun part of the project. And when we started that was like back in 2018. But that particular FJ40, the history is neat because it was the first time we thought, okay, we're going to go after a repeatable redesign, a system that we can replicate over and over and apply it to multiple platforms. And we went out to build this thing that looked like a crate motor, and we built what you see in there. And I wish, well, it's not at the shop, but I have to show you some pictures of it. But it was in Road and Track. You could see it really looks neat, right? It's just aesthetically cool. Doesn't look like, it's like Arnold Schwarzenegger versus the Terminator, where all you just see is the silver stuff. It's built up so you see, what looks kind of like a motor in it, and it tilts its head. And no one really in the industry of 12 years of kind of garage conversions has brought any quality forward. And that's what was kind of cool about it. So we built it up, and then we put it in, and we tried the battery pack, and yeah, I mean, there's a ton of stuff I do differently. So, we finished it, and just the concept. I think someone picked it up in 2019. I thought it was Green Car Reports or something. We let it out there, and we called it, an electric crate motor. Plain in the aftermarket language. And it got picked up and it went national. So, it's the first time, if you go back in history and look up an electric crate motor, that's what's referred to as an electric crate motor. And now you have Ford releasing an electric crate motor at SEMA this year, but they never released it. They put 0 as the quantity of part number available. I mean, they came over and talked to us. So they're like, yeah, there won't be any available. Plus, it doesn't have a controller. It doesn't have batteries. It doesn't have the other 98% or 95% of the components for an EV ecosystem that you need. And I'm all, well, tell me that at least come in a wooden crate. Like, no, plastic box. I'm like, shit. So, so there's no one really in the space doing these turnkey systems right now, which is something that we're having fun with. And we're doing another FJ40 right now. It's another 1970. It's another 3-speed. That's not going to be a 3-speed anymore. It's a one family owner that we're using on. The kids still own it, and the dad passed away. That's still in their family. And it was a Moab geology cruiser. Wow. Out there overlanding and crushing rocks. And man, I think there was still a bunch of rock samples in it when we pulled it apart. I literally drove it down the street to have it de-iced. You guys understand de-icing?
Yeah.
Not like when you scrape your windshield in Seattle, right? So we went and had it de-iced, and it blew up right as I was pulling into the garage next door to have it de-iced, right? There's smoke coming out and everything. Everyone loved viewing it because they thought it was us doing a burnout in the car, but it wasn't. It was literally the car burning up. They went in, and the motor was shot, and we stripped it down. So that's all being restored now. It's going to come back in I don't remember what the paint color is for that mint green. Super, super neat. So it's going to be like a mint green, kind of like Forest Service color with like chocolate brown interior, but it's going to have what we're calling our new 313 system. It's going to be a direct drive, about 300 horsepower, feel like maybe 350 to 400 horsepower of an ICE motor, if you will, because of the instant torque on it. And we're putting it through a 2-to-1 gearbox, a direct drive reduction box, and that'll go straight into a T case. Now we're debating whether or not we want to use the original transfer case on the FJ or use maybe another transfer case like an Atlas or something. So we're looking at that right now, but the idea is we're going to take the gears out. Then that way we're going to see how many it's placement of batteries is the game, is the challenge in this, is how, it's 15 pounds per kilowatt hour of battery. How much weight can you put in a car? I want 500 miles of range. I'm like, yeah, click into that conversation. You're basically making a dangerous battery sled. It's like at 15 pounds a kilowatt hour, and a Land Cruiser is so aerodynamic and lightweight that you're going to be at realistically about 2 miles per usable kilowatt hour of your battery pack. So even if you had a 100 kilowatt pack like a big Tesla that could get 350 or something, which is getting 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour, or Chevy Bolt, which gets between 3 and 4, you're going to be in the 2 range, right? You're just going to be in the 1.9 to 2.2 or 2.3 range, and better when you're kind of slow stop, slow start, using your brakes and your regen, things like that. But the idea is to find a good balance of weight for the vehicle without overweighting it, and functionality. And so the limitation on some of the SUVs, like the shorter wheelbase and the 40, is putting enough battery in that's without overweighting the car. So the first one we're just redoing the battery pack in the first one right now. So it's stiffer and it can handle the motors. Right now it's a little bit of a heavy car, so we stressed some old batteries that we had in it out. So we're tossing those batteries out. We're putting in about 45 kilowatt hours of nice new kind of pouch cell format lithium batteries, and they're not, they're good high output batteries. So it's got a dual motor, it's got a motor block. There's no batteries in the motor block. It was too lightweight in the front, and we ended up having to cut the axles off, re-weld them on, just fix the caster, all this stuff. So you want the 700 or 800 pounds of weight front of the car where it belongs. So you're not re-engineering how the car was originally built. So now we're putting in, 30 kilowatt hours of batteries in this thing that looks like a motor block with the motor and in the direct drive unit and all the charging accessories, everything in this thing that looks like a motor block, but that puts the 700 pounds back up where it's meant to be in the car. And then we distribute some additional weight, and then maybe with a little bit of a spring mods in the back, we'll have something in the neighborhood of 65, maybe 70 kilowatt hours in the new FJ40. And it'll look fairly stock. We're not beefing it up. We're going to kind of give it the original image. And then that'll be, somewhere 150 mile cruising car. We can put the DC FC, the DC fast charging, 50 kilowatt on that, and basically get a full charge in about an hour and 15 minutes. And 150 miles, hour and 15 minutes, 150 miles. It's going to be super, super usable. When you get in, don't have to choke the car. You don't have to kick it. You just flip a switch and off you go. And this is even better when you guys go to tailgate and you have to get the fire going and put the grill out. We just put a little port in right there, and you plug your George Foreman grill in.
That's fantastic.
But you could literally use the traction pack for additional power sources and stuff. So range limited for overlanding and a lot of outside uses. The excessive snow and cold is tough on batteries. That's still, batteries in Canada or in Alaska in the winter, that's always going to be a challenge. God, I love a diesel truck as much as anyone. I love that. I'd still consider getting a 45 diesel just as a, winter car. There's no question about it. But it's the time and place and use for different things. And sometimes it's nice to have a cool car that's daily drivable in the environment, subject to where you live and how you use the car, for sure.
Do you know what a mile per kilowatt rating would be for, say, off-road activities versus, because I'm guessing the 2 mile per kilowatt's more like on-road experience, right?
Yeah, just driving around town, city, yeah. Well, it depends on your driving, right? If you're going hill, what's interesting is you won't be using four-wheel low very much, and even like the FJ we have now, it has a clutch, but you don't have to use it. You don't have to start and stop with the clutch. You can pretty much ride around in second gear, put it in four-wheel high. You don't have to clutch for your start so you're not feathering your clutch. So the four-wheel low is almost a function of, not stalling your motor out and having a gear that'll run your motor at low RPMs. So with an electric motor, since you don't stall it, you don't find yourself having to get in the low, and you're able to do things in high a little easier. It'll obviously be worse. You're in four-wheel drive going down a sandy beach. I'm not sure you're going to measure it in miles.
Yeah.
That might be more like a football game.
Exactly. Well, someone had asked, they were curious about how much kilowatt hours they would have to carry in their rig if they converted, if they were doing more overland activities. But that sounds like something we're just going to kind of figure out on your own driving style. And
you could go to a campground and plug up with their 50 amp, an RV charger or something like that. We've done that. You could put dual onboard chargers and charge at 13 kilowatt, which is pretty good. But the overlanding in segment is kind of a stretch, unless you have, something even like we're doing a 62 in the shop right now as well. And it's just a gorgeous car. Driver, we're not painting it, not doing anything, keeping the original drivetrain. We swapped out the auto trans for the H55, and we're connecting our 413 to that, which is an 8,000 RPM motor. Runs, its run range is 0 to 4,000. So generally, you don't use first. You'll just drive in second, around town, third. If you're a little lighter, easier driving, second will be pretty torquey and fun. Third will be more of a cruise, and fourth or fifth when you get up on the highway. Super, just super easy to use. It'll drive like a normal car. You can put it in four-wheel drive, and obviously you can't stall it. We're putting up to, I think we put up to 95 kilowatt hours in that, so roughly that 200 mile range, which makes a difference. And then that's kind of, about a 15 to 1,700 pounds for that package, maybe in the upper end. That's kind of about the biggest one we do now. And we don't really go over that 95 to 100 kilowatt range because just safety. We don't parallel our strings of batteries. We do everything that we build is very much like an OEM build. It's got your motor, your controller. We have a central VCU. We like to use an AM VCU. We have a battery management system, and we control like a coolant heater for keeping the batteries warm in a cold climate. So basically, we're making an OEM quality system minus the wheels and the drivetrain in the car, the aesthetics, and enabling the aftermarket to take this modular system and apply it to a variety of vehicles. The same system that's going in the FJ 62 goes into 60, it goes into a Defender 110, we're putting in a Defender 90, and then we just change the battery pack somewhere between 53 to 95 kilowatt hours is the range that we offer at various increments based on which module. But everything that we're, even our batteries we use a VDA format module very much that's called for in the European market. They don't use that here in the US. And what it enables us to do is, we have a dog break.
Yeah. The cone, it seems.
Yeah, we're back from a commercial break and the Labrador Acres down there. But the VDA format module allows us to stay current with technology without re-engineering our entire systems, right? We don't have to change our chill plates, our battery enclosures, our battery management system, the wiring lengths, all of the engineering. We've gotten, a team of 7 engineers just cranking away for 2 years on designing these modular systems. So it's so neat that we're finally just getting those to drive. We got our Porsche system working, and then we started that in 1 year and finished it a year. Now we're going into production on that system. And now the one we're doing for the Land Cruiser, we're doing the Defender 110. That'll be driving by Christmas. That system's going into the 62 in the next few months. We'll be driving that, so that'll be fun to watch and be doing that on this Instagram. That's a cool car. It's one of my favorite cars, right? With a gas tank in the back is such a huge pancake, so it's a perfect place. We don't like putting batteries inside the vehicle or battery closures inside, but all our battery enclosures are really robust. They're aluminum and steel combinations with skid plates as needed where safeties are called. The installation is fairly modular. We have tabs and pins and things. So we like to hide things, and that's a perfect distribution of weight. So the 60 and 62 lend themselves well for the change and swap, and they're fairly popular. And the drivability, we've already got a couple of them going in the LA. Well, the red one we have is going to Boulder, so that's going to be a ski car, and so it has to have all the bells and whistles. It's got to be able to handle the cold climate. Be able to operate in the cold atmosphere. So we have the coolant heater and air conditioner compressor, but the AC unit's needed for the DCFC anyway to chill batteries when you're charging. So it's neat. This stuff's all becoming super feasible, doable, maybe not feasible in the expense for a lot of people. Obviously we know, but the early adopters are, classic car folks with Teslas that are like, wow, I want a really cool car to drive around daily that works. I don't have to take my car for a drive over the weekend and call AAA to get home. It's just, there's just neat aspects to being able to drive your favorite car every weekend and have something different.
That was going to be one of my questions is, who have you seen as either customers or customers of people who are doing some of the installs on these kits that you guys are putting out?
Oh, I mean, the customers and people who are doing these?
Yeah, like what shops are, is it a customer who's buying this crate system from you? Are they doing the install themselves? Or is it going to a shop to be converted?
Question. No, so we specifically market, and one of the reasons we support SEMA is to market to the aftermarket, because the skill set of shops that are doing motor swaps, custom builds, roadster shop chassis, Art Morrison chassis, all these guys, they have an amazing ability of fab and fitment skills and design and interior that can capitalize around the system. So we specifically avoid that, and we have the ability to work, like we're doing a 62 Corvette, and Roadster Shop did the chassis for us. Then we're doing, I think a 73 Cougar with a client on the East Coast with a really renowned restoration facility. I think that I don't know that I can really say much about that right now, other than it's a super custom build, and that we provide our engineering support team to, on a triangle, including the chassis maker, to incorporate our modular battery system. So it can work with existing cars, but then if people are going the distance on build. So we're working with probably 4 shops now that all plan to have their vehicles at SEMA next year. And but there's a lot of individuals who take our systems and put them in. We even to some degree support people who have the skill set to do DIY. We'll give them things. There's some folks on the East Coast that we're working with that are basically making a whole ecosystem, like a whole EV system to fit the Factory 5 ecosystem. And then that can be applied and then they'll sell it. So there's people kind of taking an aftermarket approach with the EV and the stuff we do and designing things. So we supply them, they build it up, then they resell to that community. So we're kind of in the background trying to feed people in different communities to do that. And we see that there's the Porsche community doing that. There's there's BMW guys doing that. There's a lot of different communities pursuing it in different ways. And then there's the traditional shop. But the people who are driving the shops generally, unless they're really progressive, are being driven by their customers who bought a Tesla and say, look, you built this hot rod for me and the Tesla kicks its fucking ass. So what do you got for me? And they're like, Google, and then our phone rings, right? Every time. So we get just tons of shops calling us. My customer has a Tesla and said, I'm like, yes, we know. But that's a perfect customer. They understand the paradigm of charging, driving, and electric. We get a lot of calls from people that, our inbox is so full we can't get back to most of it. Unfortunately, we try. That there's, just tons of calls. Hey, can I convert this? Can I convert that? Well, we have an FAQ to answer questions. Otherwise, you don't have time to do it. But there's definitely some neat things to happen. And I think that even SEMA's presence of EVs, electric vehicles this year was astronomical, right? There had to be, 50 plus EVs there with 4 or 5 booths that were EV. Definitely noticeable after having a year off. And then, with maybe a 70% turn up rate this year, it was, definitely a lot less, auto tourism, on passes and stuff there. So it was a really cool crowd. It was a really a much more succinct crowd, if you will, of the people tied in the business. So we were inundated for 4 days. I think I came home and sat down for about a week. Really positive reception from people,
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, it's such an exciting, possibility now for, us owners that own these old vehicles. We want to keep them on the road, and either parts for the original engines are disappearing and you can't keep them on the road, or, for the future regulations are going to come in. So it's exciting to see that electrification is such, it's much more attainable now in a really clean and professional manner. I remember looking years ago at, kits, and they all looked kind of weird and kind of homebrewy. And so, not really confidence inspiring. Like, do I have the skills to, get this in, and how far I'm going to be able to go? And so it's exciting to see what you all are doing with the crate system.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I was up at our facility, but it'll be more exciting here in about 3 months. Maybe we circle back and have another chat when we're doing the 62 and give you kind of a live update when we're doing installation. That would be something that would be really fun to do. We're slotted to start, revamping our YouTube channel and ramping up to kind of take this to a much larger scale, if you will. We have partners on board, and even our staff's been growing. But I mean, it's going to take it up ratchet 4 or 5x here in the next 6 months as we, for the first time, are literally opening up our production lines and taking advantage, of the supply chain that we spent 2 years setting up to push these systems out. So when we're thinking we get into production, we can get our costs down 30%. The apocalypse hits, and then the supply chain disruption hits, and it's like, holy crap. So, we see where it all goes. We're not doing, what are there, 100,000 crate motors in the market? How many thousands of crate motors are out there? I think, what is it? Blueprint probably does 20,000 motors a month or something like that, and they're the number 3. So, it's a huge market. Even if you get to the point where you're doing a few thousand a year, it's going to be a huge start. And it'd be more of the classics driving around too.
Well, you talked a little bit about trying to get the kit costs down with scale. What type of goals are you guys setting for that in terms of trying to make, where you would like to see it, or where you think it would scale well for you?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's you have to do what you have to do, right? We're not cutting corners on our systems and our product, and there's no way we're going to do that. And so you obviously any market always starts at the top on the most expensive side, and then it erodes with time, just the nature of, business case study 101. And we're, the entry cost of this, everyone's like, man, getting a 413, it's not unheard of to spend, up to $100,000 to do your, just for the system minus, mind you, the system could run you, with a high voltage power steering pump and that could run the power steering and the hydro boost brakes if that was an option. You're going, and you have the air conditioning compressor, the DCFC, and the coolant heater. You get all the bells, whistles, and options. It's in the 95 kilowatt hour pack on a 413. You're somewhere in the $100,000 range, and we build it up, mind you. All right, our labors for wiring and building the system, what we've seen in the past 10 years is, here, we want to get in the business. We're going to throw how many hours as a shop into this and figure it out. Well, you're 500 to 1,000 to 1,500 hours into it, and it doesn't work. It's buggy, it's hazardous, and then a year later, it just fails. And you're like, yeah, I'm not doing that again. So having a system that plug and plays, has tech support, is over the air updated, is reliable, and has this a reputation, quote, powered by Electric GT, or that has someone that the intent is that someone else has got my back, and then the installation is more of a known number. Like, we have a guy that put a system in the Porsche, and first time took him 90 hours, second time it took him 45. He's like, I can get that down to about 38. So on his third or fourth installation, he can tell you how many hours it's going to take him to do it, and it's a manageable cost, so he can quote that to customers. So we're working on that model where you roll it out, you have validated installers, you have warranty program, and then you just you take it up. So you have one shot, two, and you've done 2 or 3 installations. It becomes easier and easier, right? You know the system, you understand it, and it's not heavy on customer service from our end, or on the installer side either. It becomes, that guy drives it, his neighbor sees it, goes back to that shop. It's going to be, it'll have a contagious factor, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, someone had asked earlier the lifespan on the batteries. So like, if you do this swap, what would be an expected lifespan for that battery? When would you have to repower?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. We use a couple different batteries, but for the most part, we like to stay with our energy modules, which is like equivalent of a Tesla module in chemistry presentation, versus a power module, which is like what you might see in a hybrid or something, higher output, kind of like the. So what's interesting is the energy modules will have, let's just call it 2,500 life cycles. There's some new technology. You can get up to 3,000, 3,500, and 5,000 charge cycles. I mean, that's ridiculous. But let's say you have a 150-mile pack in a car, and you have 2,500 life cycles in it, right? So 2,500 times 150, whatever that is, I don't know, I don't have my calculator on the math, but that's going to be well more than 10 years, 10, 15 years, something like that. And that even though you use only the top end of a battery for automotive, but even then it's still 80% when you're done with it. There's another life cycle for the batteries and energy storage, then ultimately in recycling. So there's a whole tiered of use of the batteries, which is neat. Our power modules are a little different. They're more like 1,000 cycles, right? So our 913 kit that we put in the Porsche that requires a lot more output to drive the Tesla motor unit that we use is like 1,000. So 150 miles. So it's 150,000 mile rating on the pack. So, I mean, how long is it going to take you to drive a 911 150,000 miles? Well, I mean, if you're lucky, and it charges in 45 minutes. I mean, it's a daily driver, but even if you daily drive it, you could legitimately maybe 6 years, 7 years kind of get through that, but on average, I don't think, even then it's a 10-year car. So, I don't know that, people are, well, what about upgradability? Well, you're probably not driving that car in 10 years or in 15, but if you are, it still should be working. If it was built right and the rats haven't eaten your wires and it's done right, you shouldn't be having those issues. So, I mean, that's the way we think. And I think it's kind of a neat question. And then technology gets a little better. Batteries get a little better every year. You kind of see a 5 to 7% improvement every year. And we've seen that we're able to incorporate the new modules to our build styles because we use a modular format. So far so good. I mean, even during our development, we're not falling behind.
As you guys are continuing to kind of grow and expand, it sounds like do you have visions of kind of a network of maybe certified installers who are really familiar with your systems that you guys can recommend as shops that are going to continue to kind of repower things?
Yeah, right now it consists of people that call us up looking for a shop, and I had a buddy. We've had people that we know who want to start converting cars, and they've gotten good at it and done several of them. And then I'm all, how many can you handle? The guy's, I can handle 5. And 2 weeks later, his shop's full. I have to find someone else. So we're referring so many vehicles out to people who are interested in doing it in different areas. That once they prove themselves, we work with them. But certainly, it's got to become a more formalized process, because you want to have people who understand your systems at a higher level, that allows us to step one back from the focus on the technology and educating kind of the educated installer network, and that also would be your warranty network as well. So those are 2 things that would tie together. That's part of just a smart business plan. Yeah, good questions.
Very cool. So I was curious, getting back to a little bit of the technical install side, what do you see as a big difference or advantage or challenge between, say, converting the classic 4x4 vehicle versus the, like the Porsches or the Ferraris? Is there more difficult or easier, or what do you think about that?
It's just the same concept. It's over and over. It's just like spaghetti noodles on a plate, pushing around a different format. But you're working with a heavier drivetrain, right? So you just have to think differently. And mostly it's the range battery issues. But let me put it this way. You have way more places to put modules, but you're dealing with a heavier vehicle. And then at the same time, in some of the smaller cars, you don't have enough places to put stuff. I mean, here before you go out and do crazy things.
Oh, we lost you there for a second. Can you repeat that?
Sorry. Yeah. It's basically everything we're doing to some degree. It's just a matter of fitment and, and balancing a reasonable amount of batteries without overweighting the car. So you keep the car as original feeling as you can without having to, hide the fact that you got an extra ton sticking in there somewhere. And at the end of the day, it's very much of everything we're putting in is always, never have we gone under the power of an existing vehicle. It's gonna usually double at a minimum the power. So, fine line on the legal contract when you buy, you're putting an aftermarket overpowered EV system in with 100% torque at 0 RPM. Please release us of all liability, including death and dismemberment. So, we legitimately, like this orange RSR Porsche we put together, and the system installs literally in a weekend. It's super easy. It's 436 horsepower. It's just a regular drive unit, not even the performance drive unit. And the power to weight ratio in that car is the same as a Tesla S, the Plaid model. And it's like a 2.5 second car. And like literally everyone screams when they are a passenger in that car and when you take off, and they can't control it. It just comes from somewhere inside of them. And like your head gets light. It's like all these things you see on, it's like Joe Rogan does that stuff. When people drive around, you just see they drive their grandma around in a Tesla. It really happens. So, I wouldn't say the heavier SUVs do that, but the smaller cars certainly. The FJ40 that we have now, it drives really well. I'd like to stiffen up. We've played with it a lot, so the next one's going to be better. We'll have it so it really feels very much like the original. We're not going to go do coilovers and all kinds of fancy stuff. We'll keep it with the leaf springs and get some good shocks. Just do a nice quality rebuild of existing. Keep it decently powered on a direct drive, just to make it super functional daily drive. We'll get in, flip a switch, and it drives well, right? It's not going to be. It's still a truck, right? And the idea is, but it's a functionally usable truck. And when the client and mostly his wife wants to drive in and commute, then she jumps in it and drives it and loves it. She'll be one of the only ladies driving around San Clemente and North County, San Diego, just driving this really cool green truck, and up and down the freeway. People are going to be, what? I mean, I just love to see that. It's I have a '57. Don't hate me on this, but you know what the FC 150 is? The old Jeep Kaiser Willys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the forward cab, it's a little commercial truck. It's tiny, but I was in Seattle. I was up there visiting a few years back, and I got on Craigslist, and 8 hours later, I found myself in a U-Haul with a truck and a trailer driving Salmon in British Columbia, picking this thing up and dragging it on a trailer and trying not to get arrested hauling the thing home. But ultimately, I want to make that a daily driver. It's just this. I'm working on it now. It's really hard. I'm really deep into it. It's out in the backyard, deep in the patina process.
I was thinking when you were talking about doubling the power output on some of these cars, I was thinking about a classic FJ40, the soft top version, so no roll bar, window down, and then the bumper sticker on the back would say, "No airbags, we die like men," and then just somebody just like flooring it and just like getting pegs in the back there.
I even put I didn't want to really floor the FJ in second gear off the line, and first gear I didn't want to do because I definitely would snap axles or do things. I mean, I've destroyed pumpkins and axles. I've sheared them in half. I've done all kinds of that. But in the 40, I wasn't really feeling, because I had to do a start, right? And I'm like, oh, it'd be really fun. So I put it in four. I think I put it in four high. I don't remember if it was four high or four low. I think it was four high. And I put it in second gear and I launched it. And I mean, there was a lot of gear noise going on, but it was fast when it had all four going. And that way I didn't feel like I was going to break anything. And it was pretty fast. All four wheels, I think, jumps like, it gets off the line. And I think there's a little video on one of the Instagram posts that I did of it when we drive right over the camera. Now, as soon as we repower that, we'll have some more driving videos. We're going to take it up to like Saddleback Mountain, which is in Orange County, and drive it off road and have some really cool videos up in the limited forest in Southern California. It'll be kind of fun to do that. But I like your idea, Dave. Even better. I mean, think about this: you take that thing to Africa, you were hunting. You were silent hunting. You're gonna piss off some elephants. Something's come after you. You're gonna sneak up with us. See, look at them. Right? Yeah, totally.
That's awesome.
Definitely. I just imagine it off-roading if you just hear everything's completely silent and you just hear where the wheel is slipping and you're like, oh, I need to move this way a little bit, and you just go over a little bit more and get that traction.
Yeah, well, you know what you don't. What's interesting, and you'll have to try this when you guys come down to visit sometime, is once you have an electric motor driving the existing drivetrain, you don't know how much the gas motor hides a lot of noise. There is a lot of noise in the drivetrain. The transmission and the drive shafts, the differentials, everything in there is whining and making noise. So it's still not a quiet car. When it drives, it's a lot quieter and it doesn't rumble, but it's quiet when you're at a stoplight. It's just peaceful. But when you're up and driving, you feel all the metal turning. You can just feel it. You can hear it. It's so loud and crisp, and the sounds are so clear and uninterrupted. You have a completely different audio sensation of the experience, which is, I don't know how to explain it, but you get in there and you're like, wow, that sounds pretty cool. It's just metal gear spinning, and it's a neat sound.
I can imagine. Yeah, those drivetrains weren't meant for. I'm guessing, they weren't. I'm guessing the motors are limited with the RPM range. I'd imagine those old 3-speeds aren't going to like 8,000 RPM.
Yeah, no. The motors really don't go over. I mean, your torque range is 0 to 4,000 on the motors that are in that particular car.
Okay.
It's going to have a gear reduction, so it's not going to really go over 6,000. But we're also changing we're not going to use the transmission, and we're going to probably use a different transfer case. But we'll still be using the original pumpkins on both ends. That'll be good. I mean, they wouldn't go over, I don't know, 7,000 or whatever it is. I mean, just that's the motor. Whatever's coming out of the motor. I mean, the motor will probably go to 12 or 13,000. So even 14 at the highest. So it would never go over 7 once it's 2 to 1 reduced on that. So that's just coming out of the basically in the motor shaft. You're cutting it in half. So it'll still have a shit ton of torque. It'll be awesome. Yeah, but we do. They're fully programmable, right? You can program your regen. You can have different modes of programming it, but to have the ability to set the torque curve so you're not blowing things up, is nice. I mean, it gets expensive when you do that a lot. So the idea is we can soften things up. It's programmable, and depending on who the user is and how it's being done, it can be completely set. And that's stuff that you set for the customer, or you set for whoever wants to do it, or someone wants to go break stuff. We hit the break. You can break it everything button, and you go ahead wide open. So yeah, fully programmable. Whatever you want. That's the neat thing about it,
Is that something you could do for off-roading? I'm just imagining like on a tow rig, you've got like that brake controller button you can kind of dial up. Is that something you could do with regen, or turn down the amount of like RPM that it would go up to if you just want to crawl up something slowly?
Yeah, I mean, you have so much throttle control in an EV. You know, you're not having like a throttle setting of some kind. You mean the gas pedal is super easy. I mean, if you want to set a lock or some sort of do it, I mean, you can program anything you want. I mean, if you think of it, you can kind of program it. If you want to, you know, just set it like you're doing a PTO or something, you can do that. But the idea is when you're, you know, the control, because you're not clutching, you don't need to clutch. You basically, you're going to be, you got to remember this too. You don't have a motor that's going to hold your vehicle like a parking brake. So, you know, in a lot of the old parking brake on the shaft, not a good idea. Even if it's upgraded from the drum to the disc, forget it. We're going to definitely use like the Willwood electric brakes and put those on discs on at least two of the wheels of every vehicle we do, because you want something super solid to lock the car. I mean, last thing you need is a rollaway electric vehicle. And an ICE motor is not, you don't have something locking the drivetrain, and that e-brake is a joke. Even we upgraded the one on the 40 to the disc brake on the drive shaft, and I'm not comfortable with that. Maybe 2-degree slope or something like that, maybe 1.5. That's it. I think it's clearly going to go for a drive by itself.
Yeah, those things are notoriously leaky and they get greasy and they just wear out quick. But
yeah, but off-road driving, if you're going up tough stuff or you're in 4x4, it's nice because it's electric. You can just hold a really even speed with it, and without even having to be in the low mode. And you have 100% torque at 0 RPMs, so you don't have to, like, you know, feather the clutch or get to a certain point. I mean, it's going to give you total control. I know, I think there's like you know, I don't know. I'm not up on what, you know, they've done at King of Hammers, some of these other off-road events where they're, you know, $1 million prize for whoever wins it in EV. And, you know, generally a lot of people want to, hey, work with us R&D and racing. Well, racing and back, you know, are pretty hard, don't go well together. It's, you know, it just depends. You have to kind of build a system that's works at its continuous rating versus its maximum rating for the whole time. Otherwise, it's just going to blow up. So, you know, finding something that works at its continuous, that is kind of neat. We're definitely have a couple systems out right now with some race schools that have smaller cars that have our packages in them, and they should be running here in a couple of months. So a lot of what we've been doing for 2 years is just being shipped. I mean, we probably have 30, 40, 50 systems shipped around the country going into various vehicles that, you know, we've seen it and we've gone on for a year, but, you know, by the time we started development to the time we made it till we shipped it, it gets in the car and other people see it, it's a 2 to 3 year cycle. So we're finally stoked to see the cycle fruition when people are going to experience it and see it, and then word's going to get out. I mean, it's the painful 3 years. R&D doesn't mean making money.
right.
The opposite of that, right?
There's a lot of suffering, and then, you know, working long hours trying to get stuff done. So, you know, our team's been awesome. It was just an amazing team of guys, a lot of young engineers just pouring tons of their heart and soul and hours and life into it. And, you know, getting systems out, you know, it's everyone at the company's pretty young, but, you know, smart group of guys, and we just keep growing and growing and growing. And this, I think 2022 is going to be a really neat year. 2 new Land Cruisers coming out of our shop with a 413 and a 313 system. And it's one of the first 2 cars getting the 313 system that we're doing, a 57 T-Bird and an FJ40.
That's awesome.
Isn't that cool?
I'm excited to see those.
And I think that the FJ is going to have a bigger battery than the T-Bird. I think it's going to have something like 72 kilowatts in it or something. So with the 40 stuff, because we're trying to figure out where do you put the batteries in the 40, right? Because you need it, you don't want them hanging over the back. I mean, it's kind of challenging, right? The first one we did, it has a bed pack, and then we put it under the cross seat, but you can't have the side seats. And then we did put a battery enclosure in where the fuel tank was under the passenger seat. We figured, you know, we can make an exception. If you were sitting on a gas tank, you can certainly sit on the back. I'm willing to make that sacrifice on that build. But on the other one, we're like, wow, how do we do this so we're not cannibalizing interior space or overweighting the back end? So we got the motor block fixed, and we're probably going to try to put 35 kilowatt in the front, up the size of our front enclosure. And that'll help a lot. That'll keep that weight there. And then a matter of fitting a couple saddle packs in the back somewhere. So we're going to play with that. We scan everything 3D and we play with it. We scratch our heads, and more of us go bald, and we scratch our heads some more, and we put things, we play with them, and ultimately find a safe place to put things where they're functional too.
That's awesome.
The dream setup, and a bunch of friends have always talked about Land Cruisers being very much like Legos. And in my mind, when I think of like the battery pack problem, I'm always like, well, if you just could have them like Legos and you just like plug them in wherever there's like little space, you can just increase your capacity. But I'm sure that there's a lot more complication to that.
Oh, I know. Tell me about it. People are, what about solar panels? I'm like, hang up, click. I mean, 100. If you drive 50 kilowatt hours out of your car, right? I mean, it's like a Chevy Bolt, 60 kilowatt hours. Then you have 4 solar panels that are 250 watts or something. That gives you 1 kilowatt per hour. What? Not in Seattle, but let's just call it Arizona. On a good day, you might get 12 kilowatt hours out of those 4 panels. Let's call it 8. Let's be realistic. 9, right? 9. How many days is that going to take to fill up the 60 kilowatt hour pack? And so, you know what, 2 panels on the roof of your truck. I mean, we can keep your coffee hot, make it one, some, and maybe cook 1 hot dog or something. I'm not sure, but that, kind of puts things in perspective. The whole paradigm of doing math differently is something that you kind of have to embrace. And that's why, the people who have the Teslas gone through this, and they're like, wow, cool, play with the app, it explains it, and they all get to know it. And then once you get to know it, then they kind of transfer that knowledge to any other platform, which is cool. Excuse me.
So
there was one question that was, oh, sorry, Chase. There's one
go
question
on.
that was about international support or international customers of yours. Have you gotten a large response overseas with some of the?
Excuse me.
Yeah. Okay.
Australia is a huge FJ community, of course. You got it, but geez, I don't know that anything's even within 100 miles of anything in Australia. But that's been a hot spot. New Zealand, Australia, Central America, Southern America, hot spots. We do get interest out of Africa, but that's, and then, the Middle East as well. So there's definitely not a lack of interest, but until we ramp up production and validate our systems, we're going to probably focus the first year of production on any new line that we do, for the most part in the U.S. And that way we can do the maintenance and service and stand behind our product. And then you have to build up that reputation. You're only as good as your worst mistake. So, we understand that, and understand that it's going to take some work to, get quality systems there. I mean, we're walking out on a long plank doing something that, you've asked me if I was doing this 4 years ago. I'm like, no way. If I knew what I was getting into, you would never walk back into it, right? It's one of those things. You're like, how'd I get here? And you're like, wow, now we're so far in. We're not quitting. We're getting after it, and we're take the bull by the horns and really push it and see what we can get out of it. That's
great. So we're running to the interview limit here, but I have one last question, and some other people have asked it. So you mentioned at the very beginning the robustness of the system being tested in a baggage car at LAX. What can you say about the environmental tolerance of these systems with dust and water and heavy vibration off road?
Yeah, I mean, well, the vibration's a good one. There's definitely testing for that kind of stuff, but the engineers can answer a lot more of these questions. I mean, we haven't thrown any of our battery packs to the walls, but we have engineering standards, and to what degree do we crash test? I mean, we're not doing OEM production levels, so the levels of engineering and testing when you're just structuring your own stuff. We're a small company. We can't afford to throw a $60,000 test system into the wall, but we can engineer things at an over-engineered rate to compensate for that, essentially. And those are things that we'll get more and more into with it. As far as, I mean, these things are sealed. We're aiming for an IP67 rating on everything. The idea is, these systems have to be able to, they're not, weekend warrior systems. Oh gosh, I got some water and I got to drop it off. I mean, you should be able to shoot a hose at it and still be able to drive it. The idea is durability. We use all OEM connectors. They're touch-proof connectors. They're waterproof connectors. Everything. When you see some of the builds and see some of the connectors we use, you see that once we started doing that, a lot of guys, in the shops and stuff started figuring out, maybe we should start upgrading the things we use. We build thermal vents into our battery enclosures in the event that there were a thermal incident, that it doesn't become a bomb inside your vehicle to blow up. It'll vent safely and give time people to get out. So yeah, we take on basically an OEM level standard of thinking and engineering and approaching a modular system like this. So that's, it is aftermarket, but we do take our engineering approach on it very seriously. So, we hope to get our YouTube channel opened up next year with some of the installations showing the quality of how it works. And I think it'll explain itself tremendously. And, it's, what do they say? One good video goes a long way.
Oh, totally.
I appreciate you guys, looking us up, and hopefully we can show you some more of the projects and actual prospect and do a broadcast from the shop, from our facility, doing some of the installation on the FJ62, and especially as I think we're going to call that green build Smokey the Bear for the Forest Service, the bear in California, right? You guys got snow. You guys got Smokey the Bear too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna throw some U.S. Forest stickers on the side of that thing. Have some fun with it.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Nice.
we totally look forward to revisiting with the other cruisers once they, get to fruition there.
Cool. What are you guys going to do?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, are you guys going to take your cruisers out and get coffee somewhere nice in Seattle and make me regret not being up there for a long time?
Well, we can send you some photos.
All right. I go to Intermission.
Back to the sandal where it all started.
Great meeting you, and thank you for having us on. It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to talking to you more.
Great. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And thank you all that watched. Really appreciate it.
On Land Cruisers,
right.
I love them. Adios.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Eric.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching.